I mean this in the nicest way possible. It's okay to be the black sheep. This is I Mean This in the Nicest Way Possible, and I'm your host, Richard Armand Mills. For most of my life, I've been the black sheep. In my family, in rooms I advanced through, and in spaces where conformity was rewarded and uniqueness was quietly punished. I was the first out gay male on both sides of my family. And yeah, I got shit for it. I didn't have a picture-perfect upbringing either, which meant I learned pretty early what it felt like to be out of sync with the narrative everyone else was committed to protecting. To be honest, it really bothered me when I was younger. But it doesn't anymore. At some point, I stopped seeing black sheep as an insult and started seeing it as information. Because the black sheep is usually the one who notices what everyone else has agreed not to talk about. The one whose authenticity disrupts the group's comfort. The one who makes denial harder to maintain. A lot of people get labeled the black sheep because they're too much, too honest, too loud, too sensitive, too different. But what if too much is actually just too truthful for a system that relies on silence? What if the black sheep isn't the problem, but the signal? I've learned that being the black sheep comes with unexpected clarity. You learn very quickly who actually fucks with you and who only liked you when you were easier to manage. You become more comfortable with discomfort. You stop chasing approval that was never going to come. And instead of shrinking to fit in, you start standing taller on purpose. That shift changes everything. So in this episode, I want to reframe the role of the black sheep, not as a curse, but as a position of power. We're going to talk about what it means to be the black sheep in families, friendships, and work environments. How to recognize when it's healthy, how to make sure you're not being toxic, and why owning this role is one of the most underrated forms of self-trust there is. Because sometimes, being the black sheep isn't about rebellion. It's about integrity. Let's get into it. Black sheep don't appear by accident. They emerge in systems that prioritize stability over truth. In families, workplaces, and social groups, harmony is often maintained through unspoken rules. What can be said, what must be tolerated, and who is expected to adapt. The black sheep is usually the person who violates those rules, not maliciously, but instinctively. They ask the question everyone avoids. They name the pattern others normalize. They refuse to perform comfort at the expense of honesty. Psychologically, black sheep roles often form when a system is under strain. Family systems research shows that when tension, trauma, or dysfunction goes unaddressed, it doesn't disappear. It gets displaced. The family member who is most emotionally perceptive, sensitive, or unwilling to conform often becomes the container for that discomfort. Instead of the system changing, the individual is labeled as the problem. This is why black sheep are frequently described as dramatic, difficult, or selfish. Not because they are, but because they disrupt equilibrium. Systems protect themselves by pathologizing the person who threatens the narrative. Conformity gets rewarded. Silence gets praised as maturity. And truth-telling gets reframed as rebellion. But here's the key distinction. Being the black sheep is not about opposition. It's about differentiation. The ability to maintain a sense of self while remaining emotionally connected. Black sheep often have a higher differentiation than the system they're in, meaning they can tolerate tension without dissolving their identity to keep the peace. That capacity makes them stand out, especially in environments where belonging is conditional on compliance. This is also why black sheep are frequently early adopters of change. They question generational norms. They interrupt cycles of emotional suppression. They're often the first to seek therapy, set boundaries, or refuse roles that no longer fit. While the system may resist them initially, their presence exposes cracks that were already there. In other words, the black sheep isn't created by defiance. They're revealed by misalignment. And once you understand that, the label loses its sting. Because what's being rejected isn't your worth, it's your refusal to participate in denial. That's not dysfunction, that's awareness. In families, the black sheep role is rarely about rebellion. It's about visibility. Families often operate on inherited scripts: how emotions are handled, which stories are told, what gets minimized, and what never gets discussed. These patterns can persist for generations, especially when they protect an idealized image of the family rather than the emotional reality inside it. The black sheep is usually the person who disrupts that script simply by being honest. Research on family systems show that when dysfunction goes unnamed, like addiction, emotional neglect, favoritism, and unaddressed trauma, the system seeks balance by redirecting tension. Instead of confronting the issue, the family unconsciously assigns the discomfort to one member. That person then becomes the problem, allowing everyone else to avoid change while preserving the family narrative. This is why black sheep are often the first to be criticized for setting boundaries, naming harm, or opting out of unhealthy dynamics. Their behavior isn't extreme, it's simply non-compliant. And non-compliance feels dangerous in systems built on emotional avoidance. What's important to understand is that being labeled the black sheep doesn't mean you're wrong. It often means you're early. Black sheep frequently demonstrate higher emotional awareness than their family system can tolerate. They're more likely to notice inconsistencies between what the family says and what it does. They may be more sensitive to injustice, hypocrisy, or harm. And instead of adapting themselves to fit the dysfunction, they experience internal friction, a sense that something is off, even if they can't fully articulate it yet. Therapeutic research suggests that black sheep often become the truth carriers of the family. They hold the emotions others suppress, like grief, anger, and fear, not because they're unstable, but because the system lacks healthier outlets. Over time, this can lead to feelings of isolation, self-doubt, or being chronically misunderstood. But here's the reframe that matters most. Families don't reject black sheep for being broken. They reject them for being inconvenient. Truth threatens tradition. Growth threatens familiarity. And healing threatens the stories people use to feel safe. Choosing to step into the black sheep role, consciously or not, often means choosing integrity over acceptance. And while that choice can be painful, it's also the beginning of emotional freedom. Because once you stop trying to earn belonging through silence, you start building belonging through alignment. In friend groups, the black sheep isn't usually the loudest or the most dramatic. It's the one who changes. Most social groups form around shared norms such as how people spend their time, what's acceptable to joke about, how ambition is handled, how honesty is expressed, and how much emotional depth is allowed. As long as everyone plays their role, the group feels stable. But the moment one person evolves, emotionally, ethically, creatively, or socially, that stability gets tested. Research on social identity and group dynamics shows that groups tend to resist members who deviate from established norms, even when the deviation is healthy. When one person raises their standards, speaks more directly, or stops participating in behaviors that once bonded the group, it can create an unspoken threat. If they change, the group may be forced to reflect. That's often when someone gets labeled too much, no fun anymore, different, or judgmental. Not because they're actually doing harm, but because they're no longer maintaining the emotional comfort of the group. The black sheep in friendships is often the person who stops bonding through shared dysfunction. The one who no longer engages in the constant negativity or gossip that used to hold the group together. The one who's grown beyond the group's emotional ceiling, or started setting boundaries that disrupt the old patterns of access. What looks like distancing is often just differentiation. Social psychology research suggests that when one member grows, groups unconsciously attempt to pull them back into alignment through teasing, guilt, exclusion, or subtle invalidation. If that doesn't work, the group may reframe the person as the problem. This protects the group identity while avoiding the discomfort of collective change. This is why becoming the black sheep in a friend group can feel disorienting. You may still care deeply about the people involved, yet feel increasingly out of place. Conversations that once felt easy start to feel hollow. Shared activities don't quite hit the same, and attempts to grow are met with resistance rather than curiosity. What's critical to understand is that outgrowing a group doesn't mean you think you're better than anyone else. It means your values, needs, or direction no longer match the contract the group was built on. Healthy friendships can adapt to growth. Unhealthy ones require sameness to survive. Being the black sheep in social circles often reveals who connects with you out of habit and who connects with you out of alignment. While the loss of familiarity can hurt, it also creates space for friendships rooted in mutual respect, evolution, and emotional safety. Standing out socially isn't a failure of loyalty. Sometimes it's evidence of self-trust. In professional environments, the black sheep is rarely the least competent person in the room. More often, it's the one who doesn't assimilate quietly. Workplace cultures run on unspoken agreements, like how much people question leadership, how conflict is handled, how professionalism is defined, and how much individuality is tolerated. When someone shows up with authenticity, ethics, or emotional clarity that doesn't fit the dominant culture, friction usually follows. Organizational psychology consistently shows that systems prioritize cohesion over truth. Employees who speak up, question inefficient norms, or refuse to perform emotional compliance are more likely to be labeled difficult than honest, even when their concerns are valid. Standing out threatens equilibrium, not because it's wrong, but because it exposes what others have learned to tolerate. The workplace black sheep is often the person who refuses to normalize dysfunction, the one who doesn't bond through burnout or cynicism, the one who maintains kindness without submission and values integrity over optics. Rather than being rewarded, this person is frequently marginalized, excluded from inner circles, overlooked for advancement, or subtly pressured to tone it down. A high-profile example of this dynamic is Prince Harry. Within the royal institution, a system built on silence, hierarchy, and image preservation, his willingness to speak openly about mental health, grief, and systemic harm positioned him as the black sheep. By refusing to comply with inherited norms that caused personal and generational damage, he disrupted the institution's equilibrium. The backlash he faced illustrates how systems often punish truth-tellers to protect tradition. On the other end of the visibility spectrum is Robert Kardashian, often framed as the black sheep of his hyper-visible family empire. His refusal to perform constant public exposure, hustle culture, or brand spectacle challenges the assumption that success requires relentless visibility. In a work culture that rewards overexposure and performance, opting out becomes its own form of resistance. Research on workplace well-being suggests that individuals who prioritize psychological safety and authenticity over conformity often experience short-term friction, but long-term clarity. They're more likely to leave misaligned environments and ultimately thrive in spaces that value ethics, creativity, and emotional intelligence over obedience. Being the black sheep at work doesn't mean you're unemployable or unprofessional. It often means you've outgrown a system that depends on compliance rather than contribution. Not every workplace deserves your loyalty, and not every culture is meant to be endured. Sometimes, being the black sheep is simply the first sign that your integrity is stronger than the systems you're standing in. Now, not every person labeled the black sheep is automatically right, and not every system that rejects someone is automatically wrong. The difference matters. Being a healthy black sheep is not about contrarianism, superiority, or perpetual conflict. It's about integrity. It's about refusing to abandon your values, identity, or emotional truth just to maintain belonging. Healthy black sheep behavior is internally consistent, not reactive. In practice, that looks like setting boundaries without cruelty, telling the truth without humiliation, opting out instead of blowing things up, choosing distance over domination, and refusing to self-abandon just to be accepted. What doesn't define a healthy black sheep is constant antagonism. If someone is consistently dismissive, contemptuous, or unwilling to self-reflect, that's not integrity. That's misalignment turning toxic. Being the black sheep doesn't exempt anyone from accountability. Therapeutic research on emotionally sensitive and scapegoated individuals shows that healthy differentiation involves both separation and self-regulation. In other words, growth doesn't come from fighting the system endlessly. It comes from knowing when to disengage without becoming hardened or cruel. A useful litmus test is this. Do you feel clearer about who you are, even if others disapprove? Or do you feel constantly activated, angry, and defined by opposition? The first points to healthy individuation. The second signals unresolved wounds looking for a stage. This distinction matters because some people stay stuck trying to prove they're right instead of simply living differently. But real power isn't in convincing a system that harmed you. It's in no longer needing its validation. Healthy black sheep don't need to be centered. They don't need to win arguments. They don't need to burn bridges for effect. They build lives that don't require permission. When being the black sheep leads to stronger self-trust, cleaner boundaries, more aligned relationships, and less self-betrayal, it's doing its job. And when it leads to chronic dysregulation, isolation without clarity, or an identity built entirely around rebellion, it's worth pausing. Not to conform, but to recalibrate. Because the goal isn't to be rejected forever. The goal is to belong without disappearing. That's the difference between being misunderstood and being misaligned. For a long time, being the black sheep felt like something that happened to me. Now, it's something I live with, intentionally. What changed wasn't my personality. It was my relationship to approval. In my family, being the black sheep came from being visibly different, gay, outspoken, emotionally aware, and unwilling to pretend my upbringing was neat or normal. For a while, that difference felt like distance, confusion, tension. But eventually, it became clarity. Because being on the outside showed exactly where safety wasn't. And that information turned out to be useful. The same pattern showed up in friendships and work. In social groups, being the black sheep often meant being the one who said what others danced around. Naming dynamics, asking harder questions, refusing to play small to keep the vibe comfortable. Over time, it filtered people naturally. The ones who valued honesty stayed. The ones who needed conformity drifted away. That wasn't loss, it was sorting. At work, being the black sheep meant not blending in perfectly. Being too nice, too expressive, too principled, too unwilling to play quiet power games. Early on, that felt risky. Later, it felt clarifying. Because environments that punish authenticity are rarely aligned long term. And noticing that early saves energy. It doesn't cost it. What actually works, at least for me, is letting distance do its job. Not everyone needs closure. Not everyone deserves access. And the need to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you is a losing game. So I've stopped auditioning. I try to choose resonance over approval. Because being liked broadly is overrated, but being known accurately is grounding. I've learned that integrity doesn't require constant explanation or emotional escalation. Staying regulated matters. And building parallel belonging, like found family, chosen friends, and aligned collaborators, that's where the real belonging lives. Being the black sheep doesn't mean burning everything down. It means refusing to shrink to fit places that were never built for you. And there's a quiet confidence that comes with that. A steadiness. A willingness to be misunderstood without becoming hardened. A comfort with standing alone when necessary. Because being alone is no longer confused with being unlovable. The goal isn't to separate forever. It's to stay whole, whether others come with you or not. When that becomes the priority, being the black sheep stops feeling like exile. It starts feeling like discernment. This week's challenge is about honoring the part of you that never quite fit, without turning it into a weapon or a wound. The Black Sheep on Purpose challenge is simple, but it's not passive. First, identify one place in your life where you've been labeled too much, different, or difficult. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's a friend group. Maybe it's a workplace or a professional environment. Or maybe it's a belief, a boundary, or a value you've been asked to soften. Now ask yourself one honest question. Was I actually harmful? Or was I just inconvenient to the status quo? If the answer is inconvenience, not harm, here's the challenge. Within the next 7 days, do one visible act of self-alignment that honors your black sheep energy. That could look like speaking a truth you've been editing, making a choice you've been delaying out of fear of judgment, declining an invitation or an expectation that requires self-betrayal, reclaiming something you stopped doing because it made others uncomfortable, or publicly standing behind a value you've been quietly holding. No dramatics, no announcement, no villain monologue. Just one clean, grounded action that says, I trust myself more than I fear being misunderstood. And here's the rule that matters most. Do it without apology. No defensiveness. No justification. If you're not harming anyone, you don't need permission. Because the black sheep isn't here to burn the house down. They're here to reveal what the house refuses to fix. Being the black sheep is not a failure of belonging. It's often the first sign of discernment. It's the moment you realize that fitting in has a cost, and that cost is usually your voice, your truth, or your growth. Once you see that clearly, you can't unsee it. And yes, standing apart can be lonely, but distance is not the same thing as rejection. Sometimes distance is protection. When you stop trying to earn approval from people who benefit from your silence, something powerful happens. Clarity. You see who actually respects you, and you also see who only tolerated you when you were convenient. You see which environments grow when you speak, and which ones rely on your compliance to stay intact. That information isn't cruel, it's liberating. And if embracing that truth puts you in what people like to call a villain era, so be it. Every meaningful shift in a system is first labeled a disruption. Every boundary is first framed as selfish. Every truth teller is first called dramatic. So if you've been labeled the black sheep in your family, your friendships, your workplace, or your community, consider this your permission slip to stop defending it. You don't need to justify your difference. You don't need to soften your truth to make it easier to digest. You don't need to return to rooms that only value you when you're quiet. Once you stop fighting that role, it stops feeling like exile and starts feeling like clarity. Because the kindest thing you can do is be real. Real about who you are. Real about what you see. And real about what you will no longer carry for other people. I'm Ram, and thanks for getting real with me today. You just finished listening to I Mean This in the Nicest Way Possible, written and produced by Richard Armand Mills.